We've now seen 4 different winners in 4 rounds. This highly competitive group has forced everyone to step up their game if they want to become a champion. But at the top, a hot and cold pattern has been consistent enough that Arabian leads them all. Will he continue his trend and stand on the podium again today? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch Round 5 of the Formula V Weekend Warriors. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Robert O'Brien. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. We've seen plenty of races at Zandvoort here on GSRC over the years. However, this will be our first time on the club layout. Let's head over to our track guide for an overall look at this classic venue. Welcome to Zandvoort. This track just to the west of Amsterdam fell into obscurity, but is getting new life in recent times thanks to a resurgence of Formula One fans in the country. Back in the mid-20th century, it hosted the Formula One Dutch Grand Prix for nearly 30 years. Granted, it was on a much faster and more flowing layout. Nowadays, the 5 different versions which are available to be run are mostly tight and technical. The shortest one is a little under a mile, while even the longest only stretches to a little over 2.5 miles. These tiny lengths, plus the narrowness of the track and its lack of long straights, make passing almost maddeningly difficult. The 2 most common spots are Tarzan, which is the first corner, and Hans Ernst, which is the final chicane. Even though it has recently been updated in the real world with more banking, even on the old track here on iRacing, it has an unusual amount of camber for a road course. The 2 aforementioned turns, along with Hugenholtz and Schieflock, allow drivers to carry more speed than you'd expect. It also gives drivers a chance to take slightly unusual lines. Like most old-school tracks, runoff is minimal. Mistakes in a few of the faster turns tend to allow no time for recovery and a big repair bill. Another unique quality is the fact that Zandvoort is literally next to the beach on the North Sea. Therefore, the sand easily blows its way onto the track surface and lessens grip. It's a tricky place to race, and even trickier circuit to win at. But with the beautiful surroundings, great history, and a mob of enthusiastic fans donning orange, you can't help but want to go visit this fantastic venue. Well, as I mentioned, Rob, this is a not widely used version of the circuit. What's it going to be like with these little Formula Vs?
We say this before and we say it again. It's going to be a lot of fun. The issue is it's going to be a very long straight, so it's going to be one of the bigger things to look at this particular circuit is because we have a very long straightaway. Overall track length is about 2.5 kilometers or 1.6 miles, 8 turns in the club layout, but the one unique thing so far that we've seen from the tracks is that this is a very long start-finish straight, so I'm expecting a lot of turn 1 passes here today.
Yeah, I am too. Wonder if it'll give us a snipe at the end of the race as well, potentially. We'll have to watch out for that. But before we get to the race in itself, let's remind you of our sponsor, Ringfree, a unified VoIP for your essential business. Find out more at ringfree.com. Choose connection. Now, as for the championship, as I mentioned, 4 different drivers have managed to win so far, and 3 of them are up at the top of the points right now, Arabian, Gaspers, and Orr. However, we didn't see Matt at the last round. We'll see if he's here today to try and compete, as Hraski and Stefani are starting to become quite a distance back, so maybe we're seeing a breakout there in the Spec 1. What about the Spec 2, Rob?
In Spec 2, Evan Woods and Thomas Renders are still very close to each other, so there's not that splintering that we see in S1, or we see in S1 from 4th to 5th. Only 55 points separate 1st through to 5th, so a few wins, a few accidents here and there can still shake this up immensely. So, to all drivers out there in S2, be careful and race hard.
Now, in the Masters standings, so you might recognize one of their names. That is Antonio Reis, who is in the top 5 in the Spec 1 race as well. So he is proven fast, not even just for his age group, but just overall has his speed still. Gradwell and Taylor a little bit behind them before you finally get some close battles. Taylor and Bately for that 3rd spot. Then followed another roughly 20 points back to Bill Kraus to round out your top 5. Why don't you run us down the race details real quick here, Rob?
So it's going to be a 40-minute race of 1 fuel stop. open setups, but I mean, it might as well be shared setups because these are the kind of guys that like to share and help with each other. So we'll pencil in shared next time. But the key thing is that one pit stop. It's been key in the last 3 races, especially at Okayama, where the undercut was so powerful that we just had a launch and a big leg up for, I think it was Gaspers, that had the big leg up on that last race. So let's see if it happens today. I'm not sure. It's kind of we have to see what's in the box of surprises today.
Exactly. Well, I mentioned Empty Box a little bit ago. Well, he's sadly not here today. A couple others that haven't shown. Antonio Reese is not in the session right now, so he might lose his championship lead in the Masters on top of things. We're just waiting for the warm-up to finish, and we head off to the race because the qualifying has already taken place. And we'll go through that grid pretty shortly. But not a huge field that is running out here today. I think in the realm of about 30 drivers that are looking to take part in the event, which is probably a good thing considering how short of a lap it is.
And given the fact that it's going to be a track that this is my first time actually seeing this track in action, so it is going to be a learning experience for I think quite a lot of drivers. We've seen the full length. I mean, I'm pretty sure everybody has raced the whole length of Zandvoort, but this short club layout is actually going to be a bit of a challenge. I mean, it's in these nice little cars, so I imagine they're not going to have to worry about that final corner runoff. But what they're going to have to worry about is, again, that big old straight. Then we see Simon Mayer going down. You could just see it goes on and on and on, and then you finally get to the end, and it's a 180-degree banked turn. So anybody that can slide in or slide around and keep the car straight and level does stand to make up a good number of places today.
Yeah, that top end speed might wind up being critical. And they actually do have a spare car waiting for them in the pit lane. So if they get some damage, since there is a scheduled pit stop for fuel, you might see a few drivers duck in and try and take that so that they have that top end speed during the race, try and make some overtakes. We're watching Gradwell. I'm sure he's eager to try and take that lead in the Masters Championship today, especially since I'm still not seeing Antonio Reese show up. So with 3 seconds left, the time has elapsed, and he is not able to join us here for round 5, which means we now head off to the race session as well. So now that the grid has been populated, let's go through our starting order for today's race. And it is going to be, no surprise here, David Gaspers taking the pole. Rocco Horvath will be in second, trying to be our 5th different winner, with Renders starting 3rd, Arabian in P4. Andalo will be P5, with Batley in 6th, Gibson 7th, and Stefani 8th. And it's Meyer and Morelli rounding out your top 10.
Then we go down the rest of the grid. It's going to be Steve Ray in 11th, 12th, Jim McGill, Jared Colo in 13th, Leroy Cobbage in 14th, Myro Haraski in 15th. Now, he did do very well last week, so let's try and see if he can return back to the top 5, top 10 region in this race. 16th, Thomas Gradwell. 17th, Edgar Sancinelli. 18th is Johan Patenga. 19th is Mike Taylor. Rob Hop finally running at your top 20.
21st goes to Stephen Mitchell with Vucinic in 22nd, Davidson P23, followed by Solblum and Foster out of our 25 starters here today. Like Rob mentioned, it should be mostly familiar except for a few corners and certainly a lot less space to try and compete. It's already a narrow track. I guess the good thing is these cars are very tiny compared to most vehicles that race around here.
I mean, you're also going to have the issue of what happens if you have cars sliding out of turn 1. The real danger is that it's a banked turn and the track temperature is actually quite hot. So they're going to have to be very careful coming into turn 1. 100 degrees Fahrenheit is nothing to laugh at, especially in these cars that only rely on mechanical grip. they don't have any downforce to speak of. I mean, not a wing on that car except for the shape of the bodywork to allow it to, function. So
yeah, and here's where we'll get our first taste of how this differs. A long sweeping corner here off to the right that takes them immediately back onto the main course, and then it's hard braking down into the Hans Ernst chicane, which is no longer a decent passing zone, although drivers can try. We'll see. Again, this is a bit new for us as well. We have yet to see them actually compete here, and maybe they'll throw some surprises. Maybe a few drivers have discovered some things about this place that could allow them through in unlikely places. But we're now coming around Kumho and then through Lyondike, and the Porsche pace car is going to lead them off. So we're going to see how they take this first corner. Will it be a pileup? Is this going to be a preview potentially to F1 of what we'll see with those drivers heading into the first corner? Here we go. Out of that last turn, you'll see the Porsche pace car turn into what is a very narrow pit entry, another pitfall that the drivers will have to watch out for. There it goes. Gaspers has control, and the green flag is out. He has a good launch and immediately tries to weave to the side to pull out of the slipstream as Horvath slots in behind him. Arabian as well. Renders with a poor start down to the inside as he starts to lose positions down into Tarzan. A bit of 3 wide back in the field. Not seeing anybody off quite yet, so it looks like we're clean.
Yeah, the fear is over now that they're able to get through it and not get bunched up to each other like I thought they might have. That sweeping right-hander 180 and the banked curve can really offset some cars. But oh, sorry, I spoke too soon. We've had an accident in the background, and that's going to be Nicholas Morel. Simon Riley in the background. I think it's Simon Mayer, correction, in the background having accidents. But they're going to be...
We'll try and get back to it in a bit. That was indeed Morelli involved in cars missing tires, which means it was an immediate tow from them. To have to get back to pit lane, they'll have to hop in the spare and try to salvage what they can today. But coming around to complete the first lap, Gaspers leads Horvath ahead of Arabian. Now we get to see what the slipstream is like. The drivers seem to think it's going to be a big tow, and indeed, already Horvath is jumping down to the inside. Can he be completely passed by the braking? It's looking like a big yes, and now they're towing along the likes of Arabian, but they run out of straightaway, Rob.
Very nicely well done by car of Rocco Horvath to pip the post of nearly everybody. I think he just caught everybody else sleeping in car number 14, but Gaspers is not asleep himself, and he is threatening to upset the apple cart and put himself into first position. But Faraz Arabian, as before, is going to threaten all 3 of them and say, let me have first position. I'm going to put my rubber stamp on it. I think I deserve it this day.
19 cars still running out on track currently. And we have a few that are still waiting for those tows to finish. So they might even go 2 laps down here at the start of the race. So Gaspers will now be the one that gets the tow. Arabian is with him. It's a bit of a gap down to Renders, but I think he should still feel the effects. The first real sized break is Andalo in the 415, giving chase in 5th place. Already to his inside, Gaspers is not interested in being in 2nd. So he's already swapping around with Horvath down to the inside, but he's not fully passed, and we have our towed cars coming out in the midst of this group.
They're going to upset the apple cart. Oh, we're coming back to the apple. It's the apple cart of upsets, really, at this point. But Rocco, he held on for as long as he could, and I think what we saw was the huge pit straight that we saw that Ace or whatever explained before the race started, was that it is going to be this issue of, well, I'm going to get as little slipstream as these cars can give. That's still a huge amount because of the low horsepower these cars output. If they can reduce the wind interference, oh sorry, that is going to be Rocco having a very big slide out onto the banked left curve, the third to last corner, and he is now in the clutches of Faraz Arabian, who is definitely going to be punishing him for that little mishap that he had. But you could just see how this track in particular, the banked curves are really starting to upset the cars. They slide out quite a lot. We kind of saw that in Tsukuba, and there goes Arabian making this strike. The little downforce, or the little slipstream that he's able to get, he's pulled off to one side. He's sitting side by side for almost the entire length. Oh, and he doesn't take it.
Yeah, Rocco got his own little run thanks to the draft from Gaspers, and that kept him out of the clutches of Arabian, so they'll stay in position. I guess that's the trick here, is if you've got enough of a gap to the car in front, just stay put on the racing line, and the other driver doesn't have enough oomph.
I mean, with Gaspers being in first right now, it's very difficult for... It's essentially a battle between first and second right now. The third position, he has to wait until the very, very last moment to make a move on the right-hand side of Rocco at this point. Because Rocco can just use the slipstream, as we saw so effectively. He sort of just held course. He didn't panic. He just said, all right, come on, Farns, let's battle. And then just as that straight just kept on coming, like in these slow cars, not slow, but the cars with less horsepower, that straight is very, very long. It's about 10 seconds end to end, and that's about a lifetime for these guys. But here we go. That is going to be the car of Rocco Horvath on the inside, and it's going to be 3 wide going into the first corner. That is Farns Arabian striking on all three. The Empire strikes back, and the Empire is led by Farns Arabian. What an absolutely sensational move on the inside, taking Gaspers and Horvath all in one.
Yeah, he had enough of a run compared to the pair of them. Around the outside of Hugenholtz, Gaspers has to get off the racing line, but will be able to slot into third. Horvath still in second after all that craziness. We actually do still have 2 more, and let's not forget about Renders and Dalo back there. And in fact, they are fighting for the lead in the Spec 2 category. So that's got some significant implications right there.
Yeah, and Dolo, just seeing him here, he's just having to hold back a little bit. I think he just doesn't want to get caught up in anything that might be untoward. You know, if an accident happens, he's got enough space to react. I think he's just playing the safe game right now, and that's probably for the best. Just sit behind these guys, see what they can do. And he's actually pulling into the pits for an undercut. That's a very early pit stop, one of the earliest pit stops on the grid that wasn't involving in a tow, for instance. So he's going to take it to the pits and just get up some fuel, get some clean air, and where he's probably more comfortable racing. I think he'd prefer having the clear air.
Meanwhile, it's become a bit of a relay now, because Gaspers is the one that's taken from third to first, slotted Arabian down to second, and Horvath back to third. But Renders has been continually sitting behind. I'm kind of leaning towards Thomas's strategy here, because if he's not fighting them, he can just sit and try and save fuel, whereas Ndalo is just coming back out, and he's got to run full tilts all on his own.
It depends on the driving style as well, because, I mean, Renders might, you know, not sure how much fuel you'd save. You'd probably save about half a liter at most if you were to fuel save behind these guys. It just depends on how hard they're battling and the individual call of the driver. I think Thomas is just thinking to himself, in this case, he said, it's not worth, I'm not that much faster. As you can see, Farns Arabian going on the right hand side of Gaspers. These two will be holding themselves up by battling this hard, because they're going to be side by side on the pit straight, and they're blocking the view of the car behind of Rocco Horvath, and that is a very excellent executed move, very clean by Farns Arabian. And Gaspers is coming back for a retaliatory strike on the inside, just to see if he can take back the position, upset the Alpha car even further. Arabian is just holding on now. He has to hold on for the rest of the lap and just wait patiently and just try and see what Gaspers will do on the pit straight. And with Renders, we come back to the point that you made, where, you know, he might not be making the best move, or sorry, correction, he might be making the better move of the two, where we are talking about Flavio Andolo's very early pit stop. It just depends on the driving style. You know, Renders might not be fast enough to threaten the guy, so he might just be using that fact to fuel save, to just sit behind, sit patiently, and if an opportune moment happens, it happens, and he's happy to be there.
Well, we're watching them down the front stretch again, and Arabian's trying to weave a little bit since he's managed to break some gap between himself and Gaspers. Horvath this time doesn't attack, though. He's just going to sit behind David, and they're all going to hold position. Now, behind them, we've got a similar situation going on between McGill, Gradwell, and Colo. This is for 5th, and they're actually side by side through Tarzan. Jared not able to complete the pass on Gradwell and the Blue Machine.
It's going to be like this throughout the rest of the grid as well. It's so enticing to see their front end, but you know, the guts of the field is still very much alive with these kinds of battles. Jared especially is just trying to push back forward, and he is doing very well to actually get to a good position behind Gradwell and McGill. McGill is sort of the gatekeeper of the top 5 right now, and he's just trying to essentially keep both of them at bay at the same time. It's the two American states versus the Australian in the middle, as Gradwell is just trying to figure out how he can put McGill in check.
Arabian is pitting. Nobody else in that top 4 group are, and McGill is as well.
Very odd, because it's the lead of the groups that is pitching.
I wonder if their thought is, because remember they didn't attack Arabian last time. Maybe he kind of thought, oh, they're going to sit behind me and save fuel, so I might as well pit because I'm not going to be able to out-strategize them that way.
I mean, if this were for pitting for tires, I can imagine. Oh, that's a very long pit stop from Florence right there. That's 9. Oh no, he really has had a long pit stop. That's almost double of what McGill just did. Oh dear, really have to figure out what's going on there, because
now
he's going to be down.
Endalo had a 20-second stop as well, though. Remember, he pitted a little bit earlier than all of them, so he's out a little bit behind Arabian. So did McGill get it wrong, or did Arabian get it wrong? That's the question. There's the comparison.
Yeah, this is between Endalo and Arabian. These are the two longer pit stops that we've had so far, and if we compare it to McGill had a 10.7 second pit stop.
Colo's going to respond to McGill, though. He's pitting in this time, kind of watching to see what kind of pit time he winds up having. So we watch our leaders. It's back to Horvath in front of Gaspers for the time being, and Colo is looking like a longer stop. You know what I think may have happened is those who had longer stops may have forgot to uncheck tires.
Oh no, that is going to. I mean, they're gonna have good grip for the first few laps, but this is a hot track, so they are going to start eating the tires. It just depends how much time they can actually make up on the track. I don't think there is 10 seconds worth of a makeup for using fresh rubber, especially at this early stage when the tires are still going to have a good kick left in them. And we just see the side-by-side action now of Gaspers and Rocco Horvath, and Renders. Oh, I think he's changed his mind. I think he wants a little bit of a taste of this action, because he was looking very much like, let's see which one's going to make it first. He chose incorrectly that time, but he is looking to punish those that are distracted. I think he's trying to see if he can use his ace in the hole of, I'm the last in the queue of 3. I can see what the other 2 are doing. They can't see what I'm doing. So I'll use that to my advantage.
Could be. Yeah, I'm almost certain that those who had the longer stops just forgot to uncheck the tires, because I think they only took the fronts and were able to uncheck it before the team made it back around to the rears. Once it starts, you can't stop it here in the sim, unfortunately, as we watch these 3 come through once again. Not even halfway through the race, so if they're going to go for an early strategy, they're going to have to pit soon, or maybe just actually try and respond to guys like McGill and Arabian, but none of them making motions down towards the pits. Last time we saw Renders start to gather them up, but not actually pass. Will he attempt it this time? You see him sticking his nose out. No, he lifts early. And Horvath doesn't reach Gaspers in time.
Just on the note of slipstreaming, by the way, I'm actually quite surprised of how much speed in relative form that they actually pick up from sitting behind the car in front. At the end of that pit straight, David Gaspers was going 153 kilometers an hour, which is near enough to 100 miles an hour. Rocco Horvath was doing, the ears makes no difference, 160 kilometers per hour, which is near the button of 100 miles an hour. So
now Ondalo on his run back forward is trying to overtake Sancinelli, which looks like he's going to be able to easily get to the inside of him. Edgar has yet to take his scheduled stop. He has been in pit lane to take his spare car, but still needs to stop for fuel.
He's done the Formula E without taking the fuel either, so he'll have to pit again as we are on board with Edgar Sancinelli. You can see the banking. Zandvoort is actually I think it's one of the tracks that comes to mind for me in a way that it's very, the corners are actually sort of sweeping in terms of the height difference and the actual way they move, because I think back to like the corkscrew on Laguna Seca, which these guys started off with, the big example. But as far as no other corners on that track, they're actually quite flat in terms of height difference from one end to the other. Here, it's very, very different, and you can just see how much banking, even before they had this major change on that final sweeping right-hander.
Ooh, we had a change for the lead that wasn't at Tarzan. This is interesting. Gaspers figured out how to get a run. I wonder if we could get a replay of this. A run out of Hugenholtz up to turn 4, the connector between the two parts of the track. Now, he wasn't fought too hard. Here we're going to see it. Out of the banked left-hander of Hugenholtz. Watch that green and black car just suddenly find a launch. I'm curious where he figured this out.
You can see just a slip on the inside. I think Rocco just did not have the exit that he wanted, and it might have missed a gear as well. These kinds of cars would actually benefit a hell of a lot if they can get just a huge boost coming out of the corner, especially with the banking the way that it is. And if we look at Eugen Holdbocht, and this is you sweep around to the left and you crest over that hill, that's when your best opportunity is to strike. Rocco doesn't do it this time by, but that is the best time to strike, because that sweeping right-hander essentially at Toyota Bocht, that actually seals the deal for you if you're going to make a move there, and Gaspers did a very good move. Yeah,
that one caught me by surprise. I'm curious if it caught Rocco by surprise, or if it, because he didn't seem to fight it, so I'm not sure if he just kind of wanted to let it happen, or if that really genuinely took him by surprise. Let's see if he goes for the pass this time. He's going to stay in the slipstream. He should be able to pick up speed from here, but no. The 14 is at a steady pace behind the number 21, and Renders easily catches them back up where he can lift into Tarzan. But yeah, I agree with you that the banking, the camber in these corners are so distinct compared to modern day tracks that before the days of they kept putting anti-camber on everything, which, personal rant, I hate that they do that, because it seems like you get so much better racing when you've got some banking.
Yeah, and I think if you were to sit on board with a driver on one of these cars, you can actually see how much the car shifts and moves, and there's a lot more that goes into the setup of these cars, especially with the suspension. You kind of need to have it, as we can see on board here with the car number 641 of Thomas Renders as he comes through. It's not much banking now, but it is still it still feels like you're sweeping through hills on a nice Sunday drive, except you're also racing on a racetrack. But this banking also can upset the car a lot easier than the sort of the flatter circuits where it's the corner path that adds the excitement factor. Here, it's the corner path and the corner variations. As you can see, Thomas Renders, he's catching right up to the back end of Rocco Horvath, and he's just lifting. Big steps of lift. I think he really is in with a shot of leapfrogging. We might just see an S2 take P1.
We saw that in the SRF Weekend Warriors before, as Butanga takes a stop, and he's going to hand over to a number of drivers, including Arabian, who's already passed him just now. Although Butanga is out of his pit stall and rolling, so Forens remains our highest pitter. And it looks like John will return in about 13th as it dumps him straight into the racing line of Tarzan, but mercifully, he finds a spot with no traffic.
It's another feature of this track as well.
Oh, sorry, we've had an incident. Horvath and Gaspers have come together. Render's got an even better shot now.
Renders is now your race leader because that is massive damage to both these cars. We just see it. Here it goes. We can just see them coming into the right-hander. Oh, and just one little tap in the rear left of the structure of the gearbox, and that car is sent around, careering into the two very unfortunate drivers of Gaspers. And just as it seems they had it in the bag, it's all sort of come undone for them, really, and it's actually put a new dynamic to this because Gaspers is out there on his own,
and Renders decided to pit then.
Yeah, and I think Renders was trying to see if he could do the undercut this lap, but he saw the accident happen. He's like, all right, let's just stick to the plan. And let's see how it figures for both of them, because Gaspers has a comfortable lead of 4 seconds to Myra Harazki, who, I mean, he's doing good out there. He's putting in good laps, but he's just, I don't think he has all of the pieces of the puzzle just together just right, because he's actually lost already about 4/10 of a lap on this lap to the rear end of Gaspers. Does Gaspers come in for pits? No, he's going to stay out. I think he got away with a lot of damage, I thought, because it looked very serious, an accident, especially given the fact that it looked like they had gotten tangled up with their wheels. It seems that Gaspers can thank all of the lucky stones and all the lucky pieces of equipment that he has, that it's not as serious as we thought in the booth.
Yeah, so now we have to watch the pit times, or the lap times rather, of Renders and Gaspers, because that's probably going to be the big tell on this one, since Renders should have a lead, but as you said, Gaspers seems to at least be running at a pretty decent pace here. Last one was a 14.6, which is, well, maybe a few tenths off of his regular times, so maybe he's lacking a little bit of straight end speed. Maybe there is some bodywork damage on it, but again, we need to compare that to the likes of Renders once he gets a clean lap, because that could determine if we see David regain the time that he lost in that incident. We have less than half the race to go. We're still waiting on David, along with Rasky, Gibson, Vucinic, and Coppage to pit. Well, there we go. That is Gaspers on to pit lane right there. Rasky stays out.
And it's important to see if he has to repair anything, you know. If he's got no optional repairs, the luckiest man in this race right here
popped back in position, I think.
Oh,
I'm pretty certain I saw it, him take his spare car. So yeah, I think he was suffering a little bit on time, and I think he knew that when he saw the lap time. So where is Renders? Renders is easily by.
And what's even worse for him is Foreign Arabian is easily by a 2 3/10 easily by, and it is just come undone for the car 21, and I feel so bad for him. It's just one little tap, and it's put Foreign Arabian right back in the hot seat because he's going to be chasing down Thomas Renders, and Arabian's going to have the hot seat of having to defend from Gaspers, because Gasper's he's not going to just let it happen, because these two are very competitive people. They're very fair races, but they're also very competitive, and they'll give each other the racing room, but they'll make sure to give it their all, especially. And you can just see where she's just passing a lapped car right now, and now there's nothing separating Gaspers and Arabian, only a distance of about 1.4 seconds.
And David's not happy with Taylor, asking him why he's not pulling back behind him. He's going to have to outbrake him. He does get through, but clearly didn't like to have his line compromised. He knows he's got to put in some lightning quick laps from here to catch up to the drivers ahead of him, like you mentioned. The other interesting thing about all this, we talked to Renders last week because he won the Spec 2 race, and I asked him if it was going to be special going to his home track, and he said absolutely yes, that he doesn't live too far from here. Renders could not just win in the Spec 2, but an overall on home territory.
And what a joy for him that would be, especially. But it's 15 minutes that he has to be lightning focused and just keep pushing, because both Arabian and Gaspers, they're going to be back there about a 4-second gap from Renders to Arabian. They are going to be putting in as about a lightning lap as you can get in these cars
14,
on this track.
Or no, not even 14.4, 15.1 for Renders that time, 15.2 for Arabian, 14.4 for Gaspers. So it is quicker in the last car in the train for David Gaspers. Renders, though, he has been able to run quicker than that 15.1. He did a 14.4 the previous 2 laps. And if he can repeat that, it would certainly be handy for him to try to take this this win today. If he keeps hitting those 15.1s, he could be clawed back by our hot shoes.
Yeah, what the Renders needs now is Arabian and Gaspers to just start fighting with each other and start doing the side-by-side, coming down the start-finish straight and having battles going into the Tarzan corner.
We're still waiting on a couple to pit. Rasky, Gibson, and Coppage still haven't come in. Looks like Gibson going to be the next one to take care of that. Coppage does not. So now we're down to 2 left that need to take their stops to really give us a good picture of how everybody sits for the final 10 minutes.
And it's going to be, I think, the most tantalizing and nerve-wracking 10 minutes for this man, as we just see Gaspers once again. He's actually just made the move coming into Tarzan Bocht on Foreign's Arabian, and now it really is going to start heating up for Renders, because he did a 14.6 that last round, and we just see this amazing move that they made. Gaspers just zoomed right in. Arabian unfortunately had to yield because he just saw, well, there's not much I can do here. I have to give up the position. And now we get to see how good of a driver Renders can be once the hot seat is applied to him, because he does not need to yield for these guys. He can race them all he likes. He's racing for position, and insofar as, you know, it may not affect him too much in terms of his standings within S2, but I say he definitely would want that P1 overall in this race in particular.
I guarantee you he does, and it looks like they might swap positions again. I wonder if this is them trying to run quicker laps using the slingshot. They have to be fully beyond one another. Yeah, it's hard to say. Gaspers with another lap in the 13s, that time by Renders with a 14.3. It is now down to 2.7 seconds between Renders and the 2 quickly approaching Spec 1 drivers behind him. I don't think he's got the pace to keep them from catching him before this is over. So then it becomes, can Renders maybe use the slipstream to snipe it at the end?
Well, it also depends if these two can leap, if they're working together to leapfrog each other and say, okay, let's hold it off for now, get past Renders, and then it's all the gloves are off in that case. But if that were the case, Arabian would probably want to allow Gaspers to be the one in front, and this leapfrogging is it's not going to speed them up as much as I would imagine they would want it to do. Like, the gap is still going to be 2.5 seconds, and every time they leapfrog, it is going to put the pressure on them, not Renders. So it remains to be seen if it's effective or not.
Ooh, that one, he had a bit of relief because Gaspers only ran a 14 flat, Renders a 14.2. Thomas is trying to pick it up, but they swapped around once again. It's down to 2.4 seconds between the leader and the chasing duo. And the overall leader is still Hraski, who I have to imagine should be coming in relatively soon. We're down to 10 minutes left to go. This should be close to the end of the pit window. There he is on screen in the 64, sporting some very GSRC-like colors, actually. He comes down to the pit entry, but decides to go around for one more.
Remember that Renders, correction, it was going to be, who was it now? Just on the tip of my tongue, there was an individual actually pitted with only 7 minutes gone. So
true.
He does have at least, he does have this one more lap to come into the pits. Again, here we go. We're seeing Gaspers and Arabian go ahead and fight. And I do think it is fighting, because if they were leapfrogging each other, they really wouldn't be hugging so close to each other up until the start-finish straight. I think they really are trying to battle for position, because that clock is coming down a long way, and that gap is still not closed up by a large margin. It closed up by 0.4 of a second on that last lap. But, and you can see here that the Gaspers is going side by side, coming out of the Huggenholzbocht. So it is an open war now.
So that's the second time we've seen him attempt something out of there. We said it earlier at the top of the show. We don't know if drivers have sussed out a place that they can overtake that we haven't seen very obviously on the track map. I think Gaspers has got something up his sleeve in case he can't snipe somebody at the end. And Hraski finally pits. Also, Coppage was in last time by. This will hand the lead officially over to Renders now, as once again Arabian and Gaspers are going to go wheel to wheel down the front stretch, giving you an idea of just how long this straight is.
And it's going to be, I think it is an open declaration of war, because that last lap they could have, and they probably should have, taken a lot more out of Renders, because Renders did a 1:14.5, they did a 1:14.495 essentially between the two of them. And now Gaspers has actually saw the warning signs, because he was losing time doing this leapfrogging strategy where they were trying to leapfrog to close the gap. I think he thinks that he can just do it on his own. He does not need Forens, but Forens does have slipstream, so it's a bit of a weird numbers game. And that was Thomas Renders having a mistake coming through the S's, and he has actually lost about 0.6 of a second just on that lap alone due to that mistake. And look how close they are now. He is hoping, he's praying in the back of that car. Just looking backwards, he sees the two of them. He sees the car of Forens and he sees the car of Gaspers. He just is hoping, he's praying that the two of them start battling, and they are battling. They're going side by side, coming down into turn one again. It's now the bright pink car of Forens Arabian that's going to be the lead car behind him.
Yeah, a few tenths slower that time. Renders down to a 14.6, so 1.1. At some point, they'll start to feel the slipstream effect from him as well, and then that'll increase the rate at which they catch him exponentially. 6 minutes left on the clock. This is going to be a nail biter in the end. By the way, one of the early ones that pitted that you were mentioning earlier, and Dalo in the 4:15. He's still in fourth, but he definitely pulled the wrong strategy. He lost a lot of time to that top group and is about 7 seconds back from them.
Yeah, again, another 2/10 lost by Renders in the S's. I think he's not having the cleanest line through there. I think he's swinging wide coming through the first right-hander, and then when he's trying to hug the left-hander coming into the second to last corner, he's losing a lot of inert speed. He's coming into the pits again. Oh no, he's trying to break the
slipstream. Yeah, he's weaving back and forth as subtly as he can to try and keep them out of it, and they are feeling it. Gaspers is going about 3 miles an hour faster than Renders down the straightaway, and that gathered him up about 0.4 of a second. Next time they are on the front stretch, even if he's these 0.6 back, I have a feeling he is going to be able to attack.
It's it's exceptionally close right about now, and Renders is going to feel the heat, especially coming on that start finish right this time by. It is exceptionally close now. He has to make every shot count. As you can see just how close David Gaspers is to the rear end, the rear fenders. There isn't even any fenders to be near to. It's just bodywork and some scaffolding and suspension and wheels. This is tantalizingly close right now. Gaspers is going to have all of that space on the straightaway to deal as much damage to Renders as
squared off,
and off he goes.
He's squared off the corner. He didn't even take the slipstream. He's going to get ahead of him on its own merits, and Arabian is going to take a nice big pull from the back of the 641. Now he slots in behind. Does he go for the lead? No, runs out of straightaway before he can get that eager. Side by side for second. Renders barely holds on to that one, but the dynamic has now changed in these final 3 laps.
Yeah, and it's changed the dynamic as well for Renders, because he's now in the middle. Before he was on either end of the trio here, and now he's in the middle, having to sort of see if he can claw back P1. He'll have the slipstream this time by, but he just needs to follow Gaspers as close as possible. Get those lines exactly right. Get that exit exactly right. I just hope that he'll be taking the checkered flag ahead of Gaspers on the last lap. Currently, as to my knowledge, I think he will, if all is as it is. And you can just see they're all hugging the pit wall, because they all 3 of them know. Gaspers knows that he needs to, as you could just see, Forrest Arabian on the outside, he is going to try and leapfrog the 3 of them. He's just gotten past Renders. He is trying to get past on the outside coming into Tarzanbocht. Does he do it? Very close indeed, coming around the outside of Tarzanbocht. He tried to make the move on the outside, and he does. He makes it. He sees it into Globbocht.
Wow, so this puts Arabian now up on the point. Is this where Gaspers wants to be? He seemed to want to lead earlier on, but then we will have that slingshot on the last lap. Does he try and time it, or does he want to be at the front when we come to the checkered flag? As they weave through Hans Ernst, Renders just sitting and watching. He definitely waited patiently in the first stages. Is it going to be as patient here out of Kumo and into Lion Dyke onto the front stretch? And once again, look at that diamond off exit for Gaspers.
Gaspers is using the middle apex to try and get as much launch speed as he can. And as you can see, he's launched to the outside. He is trying the exact same move, but Renders, unlike before, he is going to try on the inside, but that is Forrest Arabian trying to balance the 3 of them. Is it go 3 wide coming into Tarzanbocht? But the order does not change this time by Arabian was having to sort of dice two cars at the same time, trying to keep them essentially separated, try not to work together. And now Arabian is in the hot seat in the middle. He has to try and make the move going forward. He has to prevent Renders from making the move backwards. This is going to be what Gasper really wants. Gasper wants the 2 of them behind him to start fighting or for Arabian especially to be distracted behind him. And it is going to be all to play for as we come up to the white flag lap, essentially. And all cards are off at that point. Who will be ahead once they come around this sweeping right-hander?
Gaspers has managed to pull a decent gap as we look at fourth. McGill and Hraski are trying to sort out the first step outside the podium between them. They come onto the front stretch. I think we might want to go back to the leaders because this could be a decisive moment down into Tarzan as they start to close in on one another. But Arabian was a little too far back this time. The gap that Gaspers was able to pull proved valuable there. Now down towards Gerlach as Arabian continues to just stick right behind the 21. Who is going to be able to get the run onto the front stretch? The finish line is about halfway down that straight. There is definitely time to use the slipstream for a launch, but who will be able to use it to the right effect as they come through turn 4 down towards Hans Ernst? Arabian right on top of the gearbox of the number 21. Down and through Hans Ernst, out of it to the final 2 corners. He starts to slip up a little bit. Is this too far back? Has he made a mistake here? Is Renders going to be caught out by this as well? They come around Lyondike. Gaspers is in the lead. He's got about 3 car lengths. Arabian's going to have a monster run as the checkered flag is held out before them. Who is it going to be? Arabian's closing in. I'm not sure it's going to be enough. It's going to be 3 wide at the line, and Gaspers does it.
By a hair of 3/100ths of a second, he just about pips it. And behind them is a side-by-side action. Now that's McGill's going to take 4th place just from the nose of Myra Hraski. 0.03 of a second there between the two of them as well.
Unbelievable stuff. We're got more battles coming down to the line as Colo is trying to hold off Coppage. Is this going to be a repeat? Coppage now approaching quickly as they come up to the line. And it's going to be Coppage over Colo by 0.03 of a second.
Oh, that was exceptionally close. 3 occasions, on 2 occasions, it was 3/100ths of a second between Colo and Coppage. 3/1000, one position, 3/1000 is the difference.
Let's take a look at that finish for the lead between our top 3. I cannot believe that after all that, Gaspers managed to be just far enough ahead. As you see them to the line, it was less than half along the length of the car. That purple machine right there was nearly there. And then Renders had gotten overlap as well as they went 3 wide for the victory. But that's going to take us to a quick break. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews, so stick around. Welcome back to Zandvoort here on round 5 of the Weekend Warriors Formula V series. We saw David Gaspers become our first repeat winner, but it was close. Look at those gaps. Just hundredths of a second between himself and Arabian at the line, with Renders a mere tenth of a second back from Gaspers as well, as they went 3 abreast to finish and take the checkers for the podium. Jim McGill was in 4th, narrowly beating out Miro Fraski. Both of them going up from outside the top 10 to a top 5 today, with Tom Gradwell in 6th and Butanga in 7th. Then it was Gibson in the 8th position. Coppage wound up 9th, and Colo rounds out your top 10.
Don't forget about the 11 downwards as well, because there were still battles going on all the way through the entirety of that race. Fortunately, we did have that accident in the middle of the first lap, so a few drivers were sort of out of kilter. But 11th is Michael Vichunik. Flavio Andolo in 12th. Rocco Horvath, I think he just picked up some issues. He's down in 13th. In 14th was Sancinelli. 15th was Rob Hopp. 16th was Steve Ray, a lap down. Kenneth Bately, a lap down in 17th. 18th is Mike Taylor. 19th was Matson in number 955. David Davidson in 20th. Simon Mayer and Nicholas Morelli, I think, were the last ones to be actually running this race. And then 23rd to 25th, Ronnie Foster, Stephen Mitchell, and Greg Stefani, all retired.
We've got our winner with us. And David, did that finish get your heart rate going or what?
I had a good gap out of the chicane on the last lap, so I was thinking that it was enough when I didn't have the greatest second last corner, so it was close again, but I noticed relatively early that he wouldn't get me.
So tell us, though, about the race itself. We saw you as one of the few to actually make passes that weren't into turn 1, into Tarzan. At what point did you figure out the exit out of Hugenholtz into turn 4 offered a chance to try and overtake?
I just didn't want to sit behind.
So sheer determination sounds like it kind of came into it. Well, it was clever moves that definitely caught our eye. But also talk about that incident that happened partway through, kind of almost cost you the victory. What's your take on what happened there? Have you had a chance to look at the replay?
I think Rocco just judged my braking point. I'm not sure, I didn't look at it. My car felt fine after that, but I made the mistake to stay out a lap longer because it just felt fine, but it was around 8/10 slower. Yeah, but it didn't matter too much because Forens forgot to refuel after qualifying. And so he was a bit back, and yeah, I was pretty confident that you could catch Thomas.
So that explains why he had the long stop. We saw a couple drivers that wound up with that problem. Well, congratulations on a repeat victory. Is there anybody you want to thank?
Yeah, as always, the guys that organized the league and you for broadcasting it.
As David Gaspers, our winner, as Rob has caught up with second place Forens Arabian, who was 3 or 4 hundredths shy of a win.
Forens, an absolutely great race for yourself. A bit of an issue in the pits. We'll get to that, but describe how you felt in the car today.
The car felt great. I think going through the race, I could clean up my line and just roll in good laps after each other. So the early pit stop is extremely powerful, and I could see it today.
Talk me through that pit stop as well, because we noticed in the commentary booth that it was a little bit longer. Did you take tires at all in that pit stop?
Well, David spoiled it for me, but yeah, I went out with 4 liters of fuel.
I see. So you had to sort of get the tank full, really, really full before you were able to go back out.
Yeah, through our calculations, we were able to figure out that it was 1 liter off the max tank I had to fill up. With that, I was back in the race. And again, early pit stop means I had clear air, no fighting, and I was able to get within the packed pace.
And so in that case, it didn't actually affect the end result then for you in the long run. But how was that battle within the last 5 minutes? Because the two of yourself and Gaspers caught right back up to Thomas Renders and then passed him. How was that? How was that lead up, and how much did you really want to take that P1 and snipe it from underneath David?
Well, we knew that the last lap was the one that was going to decide the winner, and there was really no reason to fight with each other unless we were fighting for pole. So we worked together, kept it to the straight, and made our passes, switched spots, and we caught up. It seemed like pole was running maybe half a second slower per lap. So given that we had 10 minutes, we felt comfortable of catching him up.
Perfect. So Farns, a great race out there. We're going to see you next week. I hope, at least, because it's great to see you and Gaspers continue this really good close fighting race after race, and it's such a joy to watch. So we hope to see you again.
Thank you. I just wish I'm going to straighten up my pit stops, because it's been 3 races that I've thrown it out of the window because I've messed up my pit stops.
All the best.
Thank you.
That takes us to our third place finisher, local boy Thomas Renders, winding up on the podium, nearly taking his Spec 2 car to a victory, despite not taking the overall win. You're on the podium on home soil. Does that leave you with a sense of satisfaction, Thomas?
I'm honestly, I'm so happy about this. I'm kind of speechless. To do this on my home track, I'm really happy to give this to the virtual home crowd.
Now, when you found yourself inheriting the lead with their wreck, I mean, describe your feelings, your emotions. What's going through your head in the middle of the race?
To be honest, I knew I was leading because, the crash in front of me, I just barely escaped that. So I knew I had the lead there, but I just knew that they were so much faster than I wasn't. I knew that 5 seconds, the gap to Forens and David, it wasn't going to be enough. So I just tried, of course. I thought that maybe when they went on fighting each other, I might have a chance. But I know those guys were faster, but I knew I was able to keep up with them in the draft. So if I was caught, I knew I still had a chance. So it was so close in the end. Yeah, just awesome.
Very close. So now that you've taken a few good finishes, including an overall podium, you got to be feeling pretty good about yourself in terms of the Spec 2 championship, I imagine.
Yeah, I'm doing good stuff at the moment, but I also have to acknowledge that I think Simon, who is also a Spec 2 driver, I think he's faster than me, but at the moment I'm a bit more consistent. So I hope to keep that up, and I hope to keep on doing what I'm doing. So,
well, congratulations on a Spec 2 win and a overall podium. Anybody you want to thank?
Again, you guys for hosting, for broadcasting, and of course the organizers for hosting this awesome event. I really like them.
We had fun watching that race with Thomas, who finished third today. And let's close up with a big thank you to our sponsor for this series, Ring Free, a unified VoIP for your essential business. Find out more at ringfree.com. Choose connection. Also, thank you to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast, listed here on your screen. Additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for her Bandcamp if you want to find more of her work. And thanks to the team today, Rob, Sean, and Dougie. You can find more info about GSRC at globalsimracingchannel.com or through our social media listed on the screen. Also, check out our merchandise store at simracingmerch.com/GSRC. We keep a link down in the description below. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment. The next race will be at Brands Hatch. That'll be Saturday, July 24th at 3:45 p.m. Eastern. We have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out. Mark them down on your calendar. Later today, we've got more old school flavor. It's the Bootleg Racing League Grand National Series going to North Wilkesboro at 9 p.m. Eastern. Until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.